On Monday, the South Korean military started removing loudspeakers for propaganda broadcast toward North Korea near the border, in Seoul's latest efforts to ease inter-Korean tensions. The South Korean government has selected 5 teams to participate in its AI project that aims to develop a homegrown AI foundation model. Naver Cloud, Upstage, SK Telecom, NCAI, and LG AI Research will receive state support to do so. And the National Assembly laid out a set of controversial broadcasting reform bills on Monday, prompting the main opposition People Power Party to launch a filibuster. Loudspeakers installed along the border for propaganda broadcasts against North Korea will be taken down within the next few days. The South Korean government decided to do so as part of efforts to alleviate tensions between the two Koreas. Our Kim Bo-kyung starts us off.
South Korea's military decided to remove loudspeakers on Monday that were used for anti-Pyongyang broadcasts. The move comes amid the Lee administration's attempts to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula.
Our military has begun dismantling the loudspeakers directed toward North Korea, starting today. This is a practical measure aimed at easing tensions between the two Koreas, carried out within a scope that does not affect our military readiness.
Removing the loudspeakers comes less than 2 months after President Lee ordered the suspension of broadcasts in early June, an action also followed by North Korea afterwards. Around 20 fixed loudspeakers will be removed within 2 to 3 days, as mobile loudspeakers had already been taken away when the broadcasts were suspended. North Korea still has its loudspeakers in position, though they are not being used. Despite Seoul's proactive measure, one expert says Pyongyang is not going to consider that this is a major step towards opening up dialogue, as it is just a follow-up measure of physically getting rid of loudspeakers after the government promised to suspend broadcasts. However, he did say this was going to help the two Koreas build a bit more trust.
It's hard to say that this directly addresses the fundamental issues that North Korea is demanding. However, by taking actions as the South Korean government had stated, it could help build a bit more trust from Pyongyang toward Seoul.
Pyongyang is known to be demanding the end to ROK-US joint military exercises. However, this is unlikely to happen as the upcoming Ulchi Freedom Shield is expected to go ahead as originally planned as of Monday, according to the Defense Ministry. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
South Korea's foreign minister says U.S. troops will stay on the Korean peninsula and that Seoul will work with Washington and Tokyo to manage relations with Beijing. In an interview with the Washington Post, Jo Hyun said there's no concern over a reduction in U.S. forces, adding he received assurances from American senators during his trip to D.C. last week. Touching upon their regional order, Jo said China was becoming somewhat problematic for its neighbors, citing its maritime actions. He stressed the importance of upholding international law and said cooperation with Japan is key, warning that containment alone won't be effective. South Korea's recent trade deal with the U.S. has eased uncertainties for the nation's exporters. This is according to Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwon, who reaffirmed on Monday the government's efforts to minimize the impact of U.S. tariffs on local industries at meetings in Seoul with the chiefs of 2 major business lobby groups. The minister pledged to devise additional measures to help Korean businesses strengthen their competitiveness, especially in strategic sectors including shipbuilding, automobiles, and semiconductors. He also expressed his gratitude to the business community for its all-out support, with top executives actively involved in efforts to secure a trade deal. The South Korean government has been pushing to make the nation one of the top 3 global leaders in AI. One of the methods is by creating an AI model from scratch here in Korea with the help of local companies that are as good as the world leaders at the moment. Our Kim Do-yeon has this report.
The South Korean government on Monday unveiled 5 AI creation teams to lead the country's push for AI sovereignty. Naver Cloud, Upstage, SK Telecom, NCAI, and LG Group's AI team will now enter a high-stakes competition to develop the proprietary AI foundation model project worth 200 billion won, or approximately $150 million.
The latest selection evaluated each team's technological capabilities and development experience, the scale of their development goals and strategies, as well as their potential impact and plans to contribute to the broader AI ecosystem.
Initially, 15 entered the race, with the first round in July cutting down 5 to have 10 groups give presentations. The final 5, while big-name groups, are teamed up with universities and other tech companies to form consortia. These 5 will now face a survival-style competition with phased evaluations every 6 months, ultimately narrowing down to just 2 final teams by 2027. The goal is to create domestic models that achieve at least 95% of the performance of the latest global AI models launched within the past 6 months. The project also emphasizes from-scratch capabilities, including model architecture design and pre-training from the ground up, not just adjusting existing form models. The initiative is part of President Lee Jae-myung's core pledge to build an AI-for-all society and realize Korea's ambition to become one of the world's top 3 AI powerhouses. The final 5 will now receive government backing, including access to high-performance GPUs. First, until mid-2026, private sector GPUs will be leased using 157.6 billion Korean won allotted from a recent supplementary budget. Later, the government will provide up to 8,000 GPUs per team from a pool of 10,000 units purchased by the government. Data support. Each team will also receive 10 billion won annually for data support, with an additional 3 to 5 billion won allocated for data construction and processing.
A bold new challenge begins. We believe in the strength of Korea's AI companies and institutions, and the government will stand with them every step of the way.
Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
It's been 2 weeks since the livelihood recovery consumption coupons have been distributed here in Korea. And sales at small businesses here have risen by 2.2% compared to the previous week. This is according to a report by Korea Credit Data on Monday. The data analyzed from over 380,000 businesses' card transactions at small businesses between July 21st and 27th shows sales at eyewear stores soaring over 56%, followed by fashion and clothing at 28%, and noodle shops and sushi restaurants with over 20%. The Ministry of Interior says 90% of eligible recipients apply for the coupons as of 11 a.m. July 31st. President Lee Jae-myung officially began his 5-day summer vacation today. According to the president's office, he is staying on Jeodo Island in Gov't City, Gyeongsangnam-do Province, and plans to reflect on national affairs and recharge by reading and watching films. The top office says it has activated an emergency reporting system as the president intends to continue monitoring key issues, including those related to people's livelihoods. Tensions are running high at South Korea's National Assembly, where rival parties have entered a legislative standoff as the opposition launches a filibuster to block a series of reform bills. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
A filibuster is underway at South Korea's National Assembly as the opposition People Power Party attempts to stall the ruling Democratic Party's legislative push to pass a series of contentious reform bills. The plenary session convened at 2 p.m. this afternoon after the PPP vowed to filibuster 5 high-profile bills tabled by the DP, marking the first time in a year that this legislature has entered a formal filibuster standoff. Under parliamentary rules, each filibuster can run for up to 24 hours, meaning that only one bill is likely to be voted on before the July extraordinary session closes on Tuesday, despite the fact that the DP-led ruling coalition bloc holds the 180-seat supermajority required to unilaterally end a filibuster. Given these time constraints, the DP decided to prioritize passing a contentious set of media reform bills that amend laws governing the country's major public broadcasters, placing them at the top of the agenda. The DP's legislative package also includes amendments to the Commercial Act as well as the so-called Yellow Envelope Bill, which seeks to limit the ability of employers to claim damages against striking union members. The ruling party has branded the bill as essential for restoring fairness in labor relations and promoting industrial peace.
By adjusting the balance in labor management relations, this will be the first step toward enabling dialogue at sites where subcontractors couldn't even speak to their main contractors, paving the way for voluntary horizontal cooperation.
The PPP, however, is framing the bill as a major threat to the business environment.
The Yellow Envelope Bill could encourage unlimited illegal strikes and has high potential to devastate industrial sites.
Before the filibuster began, lawmakers passed a set of non-contentious bills, including revisions to the Grain Management Act, which had been vetoed under the previous administration. Other bills included extending the central government's support for free high school education, redefining AI-based digital textbooks as educational material, and formalizing state support for local gift certificate programs. Any bills not voted on during the current extraordinary session will carry over into the August session, with the plenary session likely to be scheduled towards the end of the month. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Torrential rain swept across the nation over the weekend, killing one person in the southern county of Muan. Now, this recent pattern of extreme rainfall followed by heat waves, experts say, may be the new normal. Our Park Gun reports.
One man died on Sunday evening as heavy rain pounded the southern regions of South Korea. The man in his 60s was killed in Muan after being swept away while trying to redirect floodwaters away from his greenhouse. Over 142 millimeters of rain fell in just 1 hour in Muangong County and Jeollanam-do Province, making it one of the heaviest hourly rainfalls recorded since related data was first compiled in 1973. Muan, on average, sees annual rain of around 1,300 millimeters, meaning just over 10% of that fell in a single hour.
A massive amount of moisture had already been present near the Korean peninsula, with a high-pressure system expanding from the Pacific after the typhoon passed, along with cold, dry air pushing down. Moisture was funneled through a narrow path, triggering intense downpours.
The expert also said Korea's recent pattern of extreme rainfall, followed by scorching heat, which in the past only occurred in mountainous areas, should now be seen as the new normal. He added the importance of being prepared.
Acting quickly when alerts are issued, like securing evacuation spaces in advance, and following official guidance without hesitation, is important. Some people still think it won't happen to them, but that mindset can be dangerous.
And he also said potential damage from not believing a warning far outweighs the inconvenience of a false alarm. Though heavy rain alerts for areas including Gyeongju were lifted on Monday morning, more downpours are expected across the country throughout this week. Park Gun, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to eliminate Hamas and secure the release of hostages after videos of two visibly emaciated Israelis being held by the militant group were released. Isung Jas more.
Palestinian militant group Hamas has released two videos of two Israeli hostages, Yeviatar David and Ram Bravslavsky. The video released by Hamas on Saturday showed David saying that he hasn't eaten for days and is digging his own grave.
כל יום שעובר הגוף שלי הולך, נחלש, נראה רזה יותר וחלש יותר. מבחינתי זה נראה שאני בדרך למוות שלי.
The video of Ram Bravslavsky was released by Hamas on Thursday, showing the 22-year-old pleading for food, water, and rescue. Both men were abducted from a music festival by Hamas during the October 7, 2023 attacks. In response to the hostage video, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday vowed to destroy Hamas, adding that Israel is determined to free the hostages.
I am filled with even stronger determination to free our kidnapped sons, to eliminate Hamas, and to ensure that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to the state of Israel.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with families of hostages held by Hamas on Saturday. There, he told the families that Washington is working with the Israeli government on a plan that would effectively end the war in Gaza. The envoy also said that the militant group was prepared to disarm in a move to end the war. However, the group has repeatedly said it would not lay down its weapons. Witkoff is currently visiting Israel as the U.S. is facing mounting pressure over the worsening humanitarian conditions in the enclave. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The official soundtrack for K-Pop Demon Hunters has reached the #2 spot on the U.S. Billboard 200. On Sunday local time, the OST of Netflix's original animated film marked its highest record yet, now in its 6th week on the chart. Since debuting at #8 in June, the album has consistently stayed in the top 5. Meanwhile, K-pop boy band Tomorrow by Together, better known as Tubatu, has debuted at #3 on the same chart with their 4th studio album, The Name Chapter Together. This marks the group's 7th time landing on a top 10 spot on the chart. APEC 2025 Korea in Gyeongju, Gyeongsang-gukdo province, is taking place in less than 3 months from now. In the meantime, the province is busy finding ways to make it easier for foreign visitors to get ground. Our An Sung-jin reports.
A taxi driver wearing a shirt, vest, and tie embroidered with a Gyeongju City symbol welcomes a foreign guest. Speaking through a smartphone app, the guest tells the driver his destination.
Please take me to the Bulgusa temple.
It is translated automatically on the driver's cell phone. What the driver says to the customer is also translated immediately. This two-way AI translator has been provided to around 1,000 taxi drivers in the Gyeongju area ahead of APEC 2025 Korea.
Since we have the translation application ready, we can communicate with foreign guests and take them to destinations more easily.
Gyeongsang-gukdo Province has started its K-Miso City project, which stands for My Innovated Smart Open City, for foreign visitors ahead of the APEC Economic Leaders meeting in November. The province says it's a civic movement with the aim of encouraging people to revisit Korea. Key tasks aim to transform aspects of society to create a smart and open city. The project is also set to improve public transport services, lodging facilities, and traditional markets. With events like APEC Plogging and APEC Clean Day, citizens will clean the streets to make sure the city is as clean as it can be.
We try to set our smiles, kindness, and cleanliness as our standard practice from the service industry to daily life. This will create a smart and safe city for everyone.
Since the voluntary participation of citizens is essential for the successful hosting of the APEC Economic Leaders meeting, the province plans to promote the campaign through civic education. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
It's Monday, which means it's time to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. For that, we have our sports editor, Paul Neitz, joining us in the studio. Welcome back, Paul.
Hello, thank you.
So why don't we start with football? The huge news broke out over the weekend. Heung-min is leaving Tottenham Hotspur after 10 years with the club.
Yes, that's right. Son announced on Saturday that he has made the decision to leave Spurs.
Right.
There had been much speculation about his future with just 1 year left on his contract, and just before a press conference for the final Kupang play match with Newcastle United, Son told the media there that he had made his decision. It meant that the match the following day in Seoul was his last for Spurs. He started as captain and was taken off after 65 minutes to a standing ovation and a guard of honour. Son racked up 173 goals and 101 assists in 454 matches for Spurs across 10 seasons, ranking 5th on the club's all-time scoring list. He leaves as a club and Premier League legend. In May, he captained Spurs to a UEFA Europa League title, the team's first major silverware in 17 years. He will now join Major League Soccer club Los Angeles FC in the coming days, according to reports.
It was a teary weekend for Son. Now, sticking with football, there were more summer-friendly games, including the K-League All-Star game. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, Team K-League actually beat Newcastle United, the Premier League club, on Wednesday at Suwon World Cup Stadium. A goal from Jeonbuk midfielder Kim Jin-gyu earned Team K-League a 1-0 win. It was only the second win for a K-League All-Star team against the club from Europe and the first time to keep a clean sheet. The next day, when FC Seoul hosted Barcelona, fans were given something of a goal fest to enjoy. The match ended 7-3 to Barcelona with 5 goals in each half. And Barca aren't done in Korea just yet. They face Daegu FC tonight in the final match of their Asian tour.
Right. Now, moving on to baseball, Lee Jung-hoo can now say he's had a 4-hits game now, right?
Yes, indeed. Something that he'd never done before in Major League Baseball. But he achieved that feat for the San Francisco Giants on Sunday, helping them beat the New York Mets 12-4. His first hit, which came in the 3rd inning, led to him scoring a run to bring the score level at 1-1. In the 4th inning, his hit led to the Giants earning a 6-1 lead. Hit 3 came in inning number 6, then the 4th in the 9th inning, a double to left field. He's gone 7 for 12 in 3 matches in August, raising his batting average to .258. Against the Mets alone, he has gone 12 for 23 with 5 doubles.
Paul, finally to the Swimming World Championships. Team Korea's achievements weren't as good as last year, I have to say, but there's still a reason to be optimistic, right?
No, you're right, yes. The men's 400-meter medley relay team, they reached the final for the very first time. The team of Lee Ju-ho, Choi Dong-yeol, Kim Young-bom and Hwang Sun-woo finished in 7th place with a time of 3 minutes 32.32 seconds. The same team also finished 5th in the men's 4x200-meter relay final on Friday. The biggest achievement was Kim Woo-min's 400-meter bronze in the men's freestyle. The one medal is significantly fewer than last year in Doha, but with Kim's bronze and the relay team showing some promise, there is new hope for the nation's swimmers.
Indeed, Paul. Thank you for that wrap-up today.
Thank you.
If only we could jump right into the autumn from today's fine summer weather. At least here in the capital, we had a bearable heat under partly sunny skies. However, a heat advisory was reissued across much of Korea as of this afternoon, so the heat will get stronger tomorrow. Meanwhile, tonight we can expect rain to come and go in most regions. In Gyeongsang provinces, we'll see heavy rain of up to 80 millimeters until tomorrow at dawn. Tropical nights temps will return to most parts, and tomorrow Seoul, Gyeongju, Busan will be beginning the day at 26 degrees Celsius. Then by the afternoon, Seoul, Daejeon will make it to 33 degrees, Gyeongju topping out at 34, with a chance of passing showers in some parts of Korea. For now, we are looking at heavy downpours to hit the central regions on Wednesday. Then southern provinces will see heavier rain on Thursday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. For all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.
Set the facts straight. Get Korea right. K-culture is sweeping the globe. K-pop, K-drama, K-movie, K-food, and even K-beauty. Korean cultural content is gaining more and more fans worldwide. It's indeed the golden age of K-culture. But with this growing interest comes an increase in misinformation about Korea. There's so much inaccurate information out there. Even AI can sometimes get it wrong. So, we must set things straight and correct all the misinformation. So here's the plan. The Voluntary Agency Network of Korea, Bank, and Arirang TV present the Get Korea Right project. Our goal is to provide accurate information on important keywords that come to mind when we think of Korea. Blatant errors and false claims that distort history. It's time to set the record straight, sharing the true history and culture of Korea while raising the national brand. Let's get started with Get Korea Right. Are you ready to join?
Arirang TV is conducting an overseas TV viewer survey to provide you with a better global broadcast service. Share your valuable feedback on the Arirang TV website www.arirang.com or mobile application. Survey participants will be selected at random to receive special gifts. 2025 Arirang Overseas TV Viewer Survey. We look forward to hearing from you.
drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% rate in April. Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million using this locally developed Yuri rocket.
아리랑 도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 APEC은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성, 포용,
개방.
신라의 정신이 APEC 2025로 이어집니다.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. Last week, South Korea and the United States finalized a landmark tariff agreement, one that reshapes the economic playing field between the two allies. The deal includes a massive $350 billion Korean investment in strategic U.S. sectors such as shipbuilding, semiconductors, nuclear energy, and biotechnology. While some industries gained favorable terms, like semiconductors retaining the most favored nation status, others, like the automotive sector, now face a steep 15% tariff. The Lee Jae-myung administration touts it as a strategic compromise, but questions remain about the long-term impacts on Korean industries and how this fundamentally alters the existing FTA structure. So today we break down what's at stake, who stands to gain, and what Korea should prepare for next. And for this, we connect to Song Soo-young, professor of business and economics at Chungang University. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good evening to you. Thank you for inviting me.
And also joining us from Montclair is Lee Sun-hyung, assistant professor of economics at Montclair State University. Good to see you, Professor.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's start a discussion with Professor Hong. So, the Korean government, of course, domestic industries, and even foreign institutional investors are calling the latest outcome of the South Korea-U.S. tariff negotiations as a solid result. We'd also want to hear your evaluation of this agreement, Professor Hong.
Yeah, first of all, it turns out to be a success, I think. The reason is originally it was set up as a 25% by Trump. Of course, it is a kind of some exaggerated threat against to induce, to squeeze out some favorable agreement from Korea. But however, 15%, because when I see the outcomes of the tariff negotiation between the U.S. and the EU, as well as the U.S. and Japan, I think 15% would be most likely to be outcome. The reason is because Japan has requested the condition for their exports to U.S. at least should be as equal as the same tariff when the other countries have enjoyed for the lower tariff. To that, because of that, I think 15% would be most likely. And what is to me, what is a surprise was Taiwan has received assigned as a 20%. I think this is some kind of Trump think of some scapegoating of Taiwan to induce some favorable conditions out of the negotiation between U.S. and China. And in the capital market, particularly on the first day of August, we have seen the 3.88% decrease of the Kospi index, which is the largest drop in the Asian countries, Asian economy index. But however, today we have seen the 0.9% recovery, and actually the year-to-date Kospi index increase is very astonishing and very impressive, which is almost 37% of the increase out of the start of the 2,373 Kospi index, which was the very lowest point recently. So, and the trend clearly shows there's some gradual increase. This will be reflected in the Kospi index. And the perturbation of turmoil in the first day of August actually is like some foreign investors because of due to the concern about United States job openings and labor turnover data has been adjusted dramatically. So that may reflect the conditions of the U.S. economy is not as good as expected or maybe worse than forecasted. That's why we have seen the outflow of foreign investors in the Korean market, but it recovers. And in the future, we are going to see what will be played out for this negotiation because no pact has been written yet, and we have a long way to go. So we'll wait and see how it will be played out in between the U.S. and Korea tariff negotiation.
Right, so definitely we'll really have to wait for the details to come. But going back to the investment scale, when looking at the volume, South Korea has pledged $350 billion, while Japan and the EU committed to $550 and $600 billion respectively. Now, we want to invite Professor Lee into the conversation. So given Korea's GDP and overall economic size, do you think this $350 billion investment scale is reasonable?
Well, I think it's difficult to say what's an appropriate level of investment in this instance. So instead of looking at the proportionality to economic size, GDP, or other macroeconomic variables, we need to look at the strong commitment and the signal that the Korean government has sent in this negotiation deal. I think the Professor Song made a clear remark that this is a negotiation framework. What that means to us is that it's not a final deal. It's something that will be drawn out and also negotiated out in the upcoming months. And so it's a possibility that additional pledges are coming forward in terms of some companies, including Hyundai and Samsung, those two major multinational corporations, could actually bring more strategic and important integration to the U.S. economy. So it's not about the size of the economy where EU has 27 countries with $600 billion and Korea with $350 billion. So in that case, the U.S. does not see this as an inferior amount. Instead, this is more about how we can move forward in terms of the strategic alliance and how Korea can be viewed as a partner in this negotiation deal.
Right, so it's definitely more than just face value, a lot of other values that carry with it. Now, let's also turn to some key sectors, delve into that. The shipping industry definitely is drawing the most attention out of this deal. Of the total $350 billion in U.S.-bound investment, $150 billion is allocated to this specific sector. Professor Song, how do you view this, the potential risks of the so-called Moscow project for South Korea's shipbuilding industry?
I think in Moscow project, there is not much risk associated with it. But out of the $350 billion investment fund, I have seen that two very contrast opinion or remarks about it, because the Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce of the U.S., has mentioned the profit and the outcome out of these funds will be delivered to the U.S. people, 90% of the profit. But the White House Secretary, I'm not sure. What is the Caroline Levitt? She has mentioned that this will be, the profit could be used for make up the U.S. budget deficit. So this is a very To me, it is a shock. But actually, so that's why we have not seen that any pact or any written statement has been made yet. So it means there is some associated risk because how it will be written down in the future. But at least I'm sure the negotiation team from South Korea must assure that the profit or the outcome of this fund should be used for the mutual benefit of the U.S. people or consumers, as well as investors from South Korea. And that is kind of a governance structure should be determined, and then we need our negotiation teams should make very elaborate efforts to improve the conditions. And also this clearly we have a leverage against the U.S. is because the U.S. shipbuilding industry is almost out of hands. I mean, they have no capacity to take care of the old ships, and even for at least the naval ships should be sent to Korea to take care of makeover. So to that regards, we make use of this leverage to ensure that the outcome of the investment fund should be used for the mutual benefit of U.S. and Korea.
Right. So there had been definitely conflicting statements regarding where the profits will go, and we'll have to see how that proceeds, that negotiation proceeds. But we will hope for mutual benefits on that front. But speaking of targeted investments, $200 billion is being channeled into semiconductors, nuclear power, secondary batteries, and biotechnology through a strategic industry investment fund. And the presidential office says it has built in safeguards by restricting participation to industries with real potential for U.S.-Korea collaboration. So if Korean firms join as strategic partners, Professor Lee, what benefits or ripple effects could we expect from that?
Well, I think we can look at a couple of advantages from this type of directional earmark understanding of the fund, where we can now see that companies are not going into uncertain or low return investment or sectors. So Korean firms are more willing to invest and pledge a higher FDI project, that's foreign direct investment project, toward the United States. And also keep in mind that this type of the fund is really related to reducing dependency on China from the U.S. perspective. So I think the key advantage here is, from the Korean perspective, is that these companies can now be a substitute for a key critical industry and also technology in lieu of the Chinese influence for the United States. So we can see that these Korean companies can have some high ground compared to other nations. Now, in terms of the implications of this, obviously, Korean companies can benefit from increased high supply chain integration. What that means to them is that now they can have a joint venture in R&D projects, and also they can be eligible for federal and subnational incentives, including taxes and subsidies from local governments, especially state government subsidies, where these investment projects will be actually established. And that could include a Republican strong support, where most of the Trump administration support base is there, as such a high implication. So in the end, also we need to look at the extended market opportunities, where Korean firms can actually have an increase in profitability in the long run.
So being a strategic partner could open doors well beyond financial returns as well. Now, let's also address the auto industry. Tariffs there will jump from 0% to 15%, and the Korean government had pushed for 12.5% until the final stages, but stopped short. Professor Song, what will this 15% tariff actually mean in real terms for South Korea's car manufacturers, and what strategies might help soften the blow a little bit?
Yeah, clearly the 15% of tariff is imposed, and then the Korean auto industry lose the competitiveness against some other competing, particularly the domestic U.S. domestic car industries, but at least we have the same condition with who are our arch rival is Japanese car industry. So at least we are in the same starting line. Then what matters most is what would be the eventual or the effective tariff rate. So in order to reduce the effective tariff rate, Hyundai and Kia, our auto industry, is already promised to build some parts or the cars manufacturing firms in the U.S. And also, not details of negotiation is still underway, but I think at least we need some kind of conditions to guarantee some kind of tariff exemption, such as, for example, the parts of the auto parts has been used and produced within Korea is, for example, 60% not from China or other countries. Then we should be eligible for some tariff exemption. That is another, because this is a very detailed negotiation should be underway. So that is very difficult to say clearly right now. But at least we should make efforts to reduce the effective tariff rate. And on the other hand, Professor Lee has mentioned very much about detailed and wide range of the industry. However, particularly I think the President Trump's perspective, what is important to him is his winning in the national election, which will be held in the next year, November. So to that regard, what matters most to him would be the inflation of the necessities of this product. So rather than these very advanced industry products such as semiconductor, nuclear power, or secondary batteries and the biotech, I don't think much of them is in his President Trump's mind. I think what he is most concerned right now is Walmart price in the United States, because that could affect the U.S. voters' mind, and then he may lose. He is afraid of losing the midterm election. So to that regard, I think much of the leverage should be exploited by the South Korean negotiation officials to take out the most out of the Trump.
Right, especially when we break down into the details of the deal. Now, let's also touch upon semiconductors, which is, of course, South Korea's most vital exports item. It will receive the most favored nation tariff treatment, and semiconductor exports reached, in fact, a record high for the month of July. Professor Lee, do you think this momentum could have influenced the final tariff deal?
Definitely so. And I think we have to be very careful about our narrative about our exporting to United States in terms of semiconductors. As you know, we had the largest semiconductor export in last July, but that's problematic from the Korean side, because if you recall that reciprocal tariff rate formula back in March, it was U.S. Trade deficit to Korea divided by the U.S. import from Korea, and that entire ratio divided by 2. And so if you see an increase in import in semiconductors from Korea to the United States, it is possible that the U.S. may increase and demand higher reciprocal tariff rates in the future negotiation meetings. So I don't think it's wise for the Korean government to actually advertise that. Instead, the Korean government could emphasize in the increased role of these companies and the necessary role of the semiconductors for the U.S. firms For example, Samsung Electronics has recently clinched a deal to supply semiconductors for Tesla by the end of 2033. So what that means is that now there is a collaboration between Samsung and Tesla in US manufacturing and exporting of Tesla cars to the rest of the world. That type of narrative is an important story for the Korean government to show the integral part of the Korean technology in US firms' manufacturing capabilities.
Now, staying with trade sensitives, both countries, the U.S. and South Korea, have agreed not to further open South Korea's agricultural and livestock markets, including rice and beef as well. But concerns are still remaining that the U.S. could still push for more access. Professor Song, how do you see such kind of risk?
Yeah, this issue is clearly related to what I just mentioned earlier, because this beef and livestock products and agricultural products, clearly President Trump is a little bit concerned about the election and then the Midwest states that will have in the national election that could be affect 35 seats of the Senate seats in the U.S. So as long as this is my guess, but I strongly believe that Trump is mostly concerned about the votings in the Midwest states and the Senate seats. Then he is going to push some this kind of the opening of the agricultural product market in the Korea and push the Korea to purchase more product. So in order to counter these offers, rather than blocking, I think we should take some alternative circumventing way, which means that I would like to give the subsidy to the Korean farmers or peasants while allowing the U.S. products to come to Korean market for the time being, which means there is a limit of the time. So within 1 or 2 years, just opening the agricultural product market and then block. That would be the much better way to overcome and satisfying the Trump's demand and overcoming these obstacles and protecting the Korean market and Korean economy further.
Professor, I just want to make sure I got the idea. So open the agriculture market temporarily and then block it again? Is that what I'm getting?
That's my suggestion. And how to when the President Trump has pushed so strongly, then rather than facing the brunt of the Trump's demand and facing the further increase of the tariff, it would be some circumventing and some alternative way to avoid the direct collision with President Trump.
All right. Thank you for your opinion on that. But I'm afraid we'll have to conclude our discussion here at this point tonight. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights, Professor Song.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
And Professor Lee, we appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.
그날은 역사 속 사건이 아니다. 두려움 앞에 멈추지 않는 태도이며 포기하지 않고 나아가려는 마음.